It is Giants versus Dodgers. Draven is here.
You're
He'll
back.
probably be gloating
The
as
world
the begin-
champion, Draven. Get it right, please.
as the beginning of the baseball season is upon us. So Brad is in Disneyland. Brad will be back next week, but I thought it was a perfect opportunity to bring Draven in, and we can talk about our favorite teams here. We'll talk about the Giants and their start. We'll talk about the Dodgers and how we think they're going to do. Though, actually, let's start with this. This was going to be one of my questions to you. I saw what Bill Plaschke wrote the other day. I don't know if that was today or not,
Okay.
but he basically said that he does not think the Dodgers are going to three-peat, and he's actually choosing against them to win the World Series this year. What is the temperature with Dodgers fans right now? Is it like we're the best team, we're going to steamroll, or is it like, oh man, three-peating is really hard, like everything kind of has to fall right? What, like, where's like the Dodgers compass sit right now at the beginning of the season?
Well, it's that's a difficult question to answer being in this city because there's a lot of controversy with the Dodgers. So that's kind of been the focus. They have connections to ICE, and that's been a big topic of conversation. I think we've talked about it in previous episodes where a lot of the fans right now are at a crossroads, and their ethics are being tested. It's hard. So that's really been a big topic of conversation. With that said, we find ourselves in this like state of constantly defending our team because not only are we defending it locally, because there's a lot of local communities that want to boycott the Dodgers here in LA, but also nationally and to a certain degree internationally, because the ICE thing is not a part of the overall picture internationally or out of the city, but the fact that they are kind of like the bullies, right? They're the heels of Major League Baseball. That's a big part of the storyline going into this season. So we find, as the fan base, we find ourselves defending the team in many different ways, whether it's from like ICE and that whole situation, or is from the idea that the Dodgers have an ATM, right? And they could just spend as much as they want, which is not true, but that's the narrative. So now we find ourselves defending the team that's supposed to win it all, and I think it's very unfair because I feel like whenever you get to the major league level, especially if it's a quote unquote clean sport, which we hope it is, it's pretty there's parity everywhere. Like you're at if you're a major league ball player, you come in with a certain level of skill, right? Which is a major league level of skill. So to me, it's like if you're playing for the Athletics or you're playing for the Dodgers, of course there's going to be an advantage because the Dodgers have the tippy top guys, but it's not this huge disadvantage. And we saw that last year when the Dodgers didn't even have the best record in baseball, and they had to go through the wild card round. So there's this narrative that we're this big like Goliath, and I don't think that's true at all. And we've seen it the last couple of seasons. We've had to scrap for the championships both years, and some people will even say we had luck on our side. If you see how both World Series turned out. So it's just a lot of defending the team, and with everyone kind of defending the team, it seems like opening day kind of snuck up on us because all of a sudden we the excitement level isn't really there as it should be.
Also, it feels a little early, right? It feels like a couple and like a week early. Like I feel like next week I'll be really dialed in and excited.
Yeah,
for baseball.
Does. Yeah, it does. And also, I think people are still coming down from the WBC, which I think got over phenomenally this year, more so than in any other year, I think. And I've been following baseball pretty in depth since the WBC started. And this year it really got over, and that's props to Major League Baseball because they knew how to market it. They made it kind of this like almost like a patriotic stance with your particular country, which has always been like that. But I feel like this year it got ramped up even more. Maybe because of our politics, it felt that way. And so, yeah, I mean, we've had, who's the one that said that it was better than playing in the World Series?
Aaron Judge was the biggest disappointment on Team USA.
Yes, he was. But he's the one that said it was better than, no, he wasn't.
I thought it was him.
Okay. I was gonna say somebody who said that hasn't played in the World Series. I mean,
Well,
he has.
He hasn't been successful very much in the playoffs.
Team USA took a lot of heat from everyone. They were saying that they weren't really invested, and that's really unfair. To me, that's really unfair. And Bryce Harper was right. Like, no, actually, Aaron Judge was the one that said it. You know, we were not as bombastic as some of the other teams. We were not as like, they were not showing their emotion. But I think, you know what, it's funny because I think it's a cultural thing. I think collectivist groups, which are primarily Latino, we tend to really show our emotion, right? It's even a stereotype. Like, we tend to really leave it out there in the field, whereas individualistic cultures, like American culture would be, they're more reserved. You know, they're not going to show a lot of that emotion. And so I think we saw that play out in the WBC, and the media and the fans, unfairly so, got on Team USA for that, for not showing their emotion.
Well, we have for Team USA, the World Series is still a bigger reward or achievement just because of how Major League Baseball works. But also, think about who's the 30th man on Team USA. It might be like Nolan McLean, who's so young, so he hasn't really made a ton of money, but still he probably makes like $200,000 or $300,000. And then look at the 30th guy on the Dominican team or on the Cuban team or on the Israeli team, those who are not major leaguers, because a lot of those guys are also major leaguers. But to those guys, of course, man, like, being that close and winning whatever the stipend was for winning the whole thing, like, that's a big deal. And I loved it because, yeah, the Team USA is a little too conservative and a little too, you're not seeing like Junior Caminero like pimping the hell out of a home run. You're not going to see that on Team USA, but they could do other things. Just seeing how the dugouts react, right, to when Venezuela, when it was Suarez, I think, who hit that double. Like, you saw like a whole team run out of the dugout as if like they just won the game, and that was exciting. That's what made that thing. If it was a bunch of Team USAs playing against each other, it would not be all that interesting. It's those countries and their teams that make this thing super interesting. And I was kind of hoping that Italy was going to win, because I kind of figured that Venezuela was the better team, but I wanted to see Italy because we had the meathead manager, Mark DeRosa, who didn't really understand how all the stuff works. So he kind of screwed up the first Italy game by running out his B squad out there, and they took advantage of that. And they were probably kind of offended, like going like, if he knows the tiebreakers, why is he not playing his best guys? So I wanted to see if he could fix that and beat Italy, but I just figured Venezuela was going to be the better team. And the Team USA's like the team that I'm sure they thought was the best team. If it wasn't going to be Japan, it was going to be Dominican Republic, and they beat them the game before the final.
I thought they had the best team in the WBC, the Dominican Republic. They had a hell of a team.
Yeah,
but it goes to show you, right? I mean, it's not always the on paper thing that gets you the win. And
that's why these winner take all kind of games are fun, right? Because in the World Series, if it's the U.S. and Venezuela, you're like, okay, like, we lost game one, we still got 6 more to go. And like here, nope, it's winner take all. So that was really fun. Going back to your thing about the Dodgers, I saw this with the Warriors. The Warriors won the championship in 2015. Then they lost in 2016. Then they came back 2018, and they were well on their way for 2019. And the toll of the postseason just took over, and their two of their best 3 players get like full year-long injuries in the finals against the Toronto Raptors. And so the other part of just being able to three-peat, to go back to back to back, is being able to stay healthy. And you guys, I always kind of make fun of it when I chit chat with you about, the starting pitching and how you guys need like 20 starters because everyone's going to get hurt. But the fact of the matter is because you guys have had to do that, you also know how to do that. And you know how to keep your starting pitching above water because you're constantly having to manipulate things. Or I know you don't like this. Dave Roberts will, bullpen game. We don't care about this one. We'll win the next two, that kind of thing. And so
yeah, punting games is not something that I'm comfortable with.
But to that extent, it has worked. And I think to go the third year in a row, there's going to be some luck involved because that is also part of it, which is certain guys get hot at certain times and certain guys, our favorite guy, Blake Snell, he's not someone that you're necessarily going to count on. But then
he's already out. He's injured right now. But let me stop you right now because I'm very upset at Blake Snell because he's but it's not even just Blake Snell. He's a representation of the modern age pitcher, right? Mm-hmm. What I consider somewhat entitled, making more money for less work compared to his, previous generations. And this idea that if you can't give 100%, you shouldn't give 90%. That's the philosophy. But Blake Snell's different because, first of all, he's not the most personable guy, locally, and you dealt with him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But so with the media, he comes off as very standoffish. The guy takes zero accountability when he gets bombed on and they want to interview him. He blames everybody except himself. Like it's very frustrating, especially when you have guys in the clubhouse who have a lot of humility, who come out there and they'll say, it's on me and I'll improve next time. When he got bombed on in the game one of against the Blue Jays, he said they were all lucky. Remember that? He said they're all lucky, and pissing off the Blue Jays and everyone pretty much. But my point is, he has the gall to say, I cannot start my pitching program because I went deep into October. Now, he's about 3 to 4 locker rooms away from Yamamoto. Okay,
yes,
and that's my surround sound turned off. I'm sorry. And so to me, it's like the gall of this guy to tell the media that he cannot start his pitching program because he pitched deep into October when the guy, a couple locker rooms from him had Jallo as an arm. His arm was Jallo pretty much. And there he is starting game one in a couple of days, and he went to go pitch for Team Japan.
Yep.
And that to me is like, how do you see your teammate in the eye when you do that? But Blake Snell's one of those guys that he likes to play his video games. That's what he did all offseason. He played video games. He has that whole stream and stuff, and he likes to rap from time to time. And it's like, okay, well, he's already out. So here we are. We're already starting -1. And damn well his compadre, Glasnow is just right. It's the over under. When is he gonna go out? Because he hasn't pitched a complete season, I think, ever. Yeah. So we got 2 pitchers that are iffy. So we got Emmett Sheehan to start for Snell for now. So Roberts has to cover for that. He's got to strategize. So he has Emmett Sheehan, and he got Robleski, who's a long reliever who also could start in the bullpen. Yeah. And then the other question mark is Roki Sasaki, who didn't have the greatest spring training outings. He's another guy.
Let's put a pin on him because I want to have a deeper conversation about him.
I'm a little nervous about him too. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. Okay, so that was you actually made my point for me, which was going to be you can carry a Blake Snell because you have a Yamamoto, right? You have Ohtani, who's like, my elbows have fallen off 2 times already. Let's make it 3 because I just want to dominate. I just want to be the best player in the history of baseball. And so he's out there. He pitched 1 spring training game against the Giants, and they couldn't touch him. And he's just like, hey, I'm going to hit grand slams in the WBC. I'm going to come back. He was
awesome. He was awesome in spring training.
No hit innings in spring training, and I'm ready now because you do have to carry an extra starter just because he's not going to be in the rotation every 5 days. Like
we got a 6-man rotation,
but sure. You guys can balance that because you have these arms. And the guy that you mentioned, Sheehan, I picked him up on one of my fantasy baseball teams just because of the idea of like, hey, at when somebody kind of falls out, which Snell and Glasnow and other guys may have to fall out, you can slide him in, and I think he's going to give you guys pretty good innings. So let's put a pin in the Dodgers for a second, and we'll come back because I have some other questions for you. But let's open up a Giants conversation. I know you're curious about kind of what my thoughts are, because the last 2 years in a row I picked them to be 81 and 81. Like that was just like,
yeah,
I'm like,
but that seems to be their gimmick though.
Until they play better than 500 baseball, that's what I've picked for them. But I do feel a little different this year, and I'm not sure if it is like I'm not generally an optimistic Giants fan necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I have a little bit of optimism, but I'm not head over heels with this roster yet. But I do think there are some things that are in place that if they pay off, they could be very helpful. So I do think that they're going to be slightly better and probably get to one of those final wild cards in the National League this year. That is my hunch versus my last 2 years of being a little bit more pessimistic with this team.
Yeah, I'm looking. This is gonna be the Giants' first like full year with Devers. So we'll see how that looks. They have a new manager, which, like you said, he's a rah-rah guy, which is a little concerning, especially with somebody like Devers who tends to kind of challenge a lot of his managers.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they hopefully not for me because I don't like the Giants. I'm trying to be unbiased here, but hopefully they click. I'm trying to say. And also, what do you think of their rotation, of their starting pitching rotation, the projected 5 or 6 or whatever?
It's really like, do you remember the old when we were kind of growing up, and they would say about Warren Spahn? I think it's Warren Spahn and Johnny Sane, I think was the guy's name, but they would say with the Braves, it was Spahn and Sane, and then pray for rain because they didn't have anybody else in their staff.
Yeah, so Webb and Ray is what you're saying.
Oh, I almost wonder if it's just Webb. Like I think Ray.
He had a bad year last year.
But he had a really good first half, and then he fell off. But he was also coming off Tommy John, so this is his second year off of that surgery. So hopefully he could sustain and keep some consistency in second half. I'm comfortable with him, but Logan Webb kind of gives you that, like, okay, he's going 7, bullpen. You don't really got to worry about it. He's going 7 no matter what. We can prepare for the next game, but Logan's going to give us a chance to win this game. And that's really the only guy that I'm super comfortable with. Now they have 2 new guys, Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser. And those 2 guys, we have no idea who these guys are as far as being Giants because they didn't really throw that much in the spring. And the whole thing is like, we're going to lock them in as 3 and 4 and hope for the best. And I don't like that. I would rather see a little bit on paper from them to really feel confident. But that's kind of how they position these guys, as like, they're just going to be probably similar to what you said about Blake Snell. Their only job is to go 5 innings, really. And that's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to manage that? Landon Roop, I think he's going to have a pretty solid year as a young arm. This will be his second year. So I'm comfortable with Webb. Ray, we'll see as far as how he can last. He may also be kind of like, if the Giants don't have a good season, he may be trade bait, near the trade deadline. And I do think Roop has something, but they lost one of their young arms, Hayden Christensen, to elbow injury. So he's going to have Tommy John. And no one really has stood out as far as like in spring training to kind of fight for those spots. Cause I was like, why are Mahle and Hauser just given these roles? Like they haven't really proven anything.
There was no one else.
There was nobody else. So I'm not confident in the starting rotation outside of Webb. I'm hopeful that these guys can be additive, but I just want to see it first. And that's my same thought with Vitello, their new manager from Tennessee. I think the idea of it is really interesting. I didn't like, Brad and I had talked about, I don't know if you heard this or not, but like, gosh, it's probably been a month now. He holds this press conference he's like, all right, guys, we're going to have a chat here. I didn't like it when, the writers, and I think he was talking about Ken Rosenthal, and Ken Rosenthal was like literally right there.
Right.
He's like, I didn't like it when, there were reports that I had already made my decision and signed on to be the Giants manager, and I had not yet. And I hadn't even told my team. I hadn't told my coaches. I hadn't told my current players. I hadn't told the folks that I was recruiting. So I was really bummed out about that. And so the stance locally, the Bay Area media is pretty nice, like compared to like if it was like in Philly or Chicago or New York. The Bay Area media was like, okay, this guy still's got his training wheels on. Like he's very new. He doesn't really understand. He's still in that sort of college thing. But to me, I was like, dude, get over it. Like this is like your ex-girlfriend or something. Like you need to move on. Like we need to be present. You're in spring training trying to put this team together. So I was already kind of a little bit of like wait and see with him. And then that pulled me back even further. I was like, oh no, here we go again. This guy's going to get homesick by mid-season and he's going to ask out. Like that's how I was feeling. Now, since then, I think he probably realizes the mistake that he made, and he's been really good. And because part of his charm is kind of how he handles the like being the public face of things, right? Like that is what Buster Posey is selling. Buster Posey isn't selling Devers necessarily. Buster Posey is selling, we have a new face of our team, and this guy's the right guy to take us to the promised land. And maybe that's good for Devers because, Devers himself doesn't necessarily seem to want to be in the public eye that much as like the guy who's going to carry the team on his back. That doesn't seem to be his personality.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a good thing. So I'm hopeful that Vitello is the right guy, but he's, for me at least, he's got a microscope. I mean, I have the microscope on him. Like I'm going to be watching this dude's every move. And I'm reading the quotes too. Like early on in spring training, he kept calling back to, well, when I was at Tennessee and I'm like, dude, you're talking about college baseball. Like it's different than what's going on right now. Like you can't be talking about the 19-year-old kid who, you had to help get accustomed to being away from his parents for the first time in his life. Like this is way different. So I'm going to be open. Like my arms are going to be open, but I'm still a little reserved about how this thing plays out for the Giants because I was just so unimpressed with how he handled the early part of spring training. So,
one of our little secret weapons that like nobody talks about is Dave Roberts' ability to like get under these managers' skin. Like with his little passive aggressive jabs, and because I've seen it, like
the lineup stuff, bringing the lineup a little late and making changes.
Like bringing the lineup late. Just the way he talks down to them, and somehow he comes off very respectful. Like he's got this because he's been in the postseason going on 10 years now. 10 years straight, we've gone to the postseason, and he's been to the show about 4 or 5 of those times. So he knows exactly what to do, when to do it. I mean, if you study what he did to all the managers in last year's postseason, I mean, he ate them all up. For the Brewers manager, the Blue Jays manager, he had them all. And what happens is that people start they start managing with their emotions. Is what they start doing whenever a manager is able to do that. And I see that, and I'm like, damn, this guy's so good at that. Like just that playing that like that big brother role, and how he just kind of gets all over them. And somehow, because it's baseball, and baseball's a very traditional sport that's based a lot on respect of your elders, like the younger managers still feel like they have to respect this guy. It's weird, the game that he plays, and you have a young guy like the Giants' new manager, and if he goes into those shark-infested waters with Roberts, it's going to be over for him. He's going to eat him up,
It's going to be interesting how he looks at that because his rep at Tennessee was kind of like we have the best team. We're going to run it up, and we're not going to be silent about it. Like, our players like to cheer, kind of like how we're talking about the WBC as far as how the celebrations are. Like, celebrating is good, like all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays that. But what you said about Roberts, and I would kind of joke with you about how, he's flipping he's flipping through his binder, and he's got his iPad that's making all the decisions. But the thing about him, if he was the manager instead of Mark DeRosa in the WBC, the US Team USA wins. Now, I know that you can't be a major league manager and manage the WBC Team USA, but he would have found a way to push all of the right buttons that DeRosa couldn't figure out how to do. Like, it was like Bregman or Gunnar Henderson. Like, how do we figure that one out? And I think Roberts, let's not take for granted that this dude had maybe one of the single most important stolen bases in the history of the World Series.
2004.
Right? So he's been there. He's been under that pressure. He succeeded under that pressure. And that doesn't mean he's going to win every single World Series or push every button.
Well, we don't know that.
But he's going to be, he's going to be able to be in those positions and be comfortable and not be like, the Brewers thing was right on, because that team, the whole season, right? They were the little engine that could the entire season. And that's how they played. They played correctly. They did all the little things. It was here's what you can do, even if you don't live in a big market and you have a small payroll. And yet Dave Roberts kind of used that against them. Like, who cares? Like, this thing's about talent, man. This is not about stories. Like, this is about
same thing with the Jays.
We're the big bad wolf, and you guys are Little Red Riding Hood. That's how this is gonna go.
Yeah, same thing with the Jays though. The Jays were the same. They come in there with their attitude. They're getting so much hype, and look what happened. At the end of the day, Dodgers played better baseball when it counted. And the thing about Roberts that makes him pretty scary is that he doesn't care about the way the season looks. He doesn't mind a messy season to get a championship, and that's why the Dodgers will never have that 117 win season. They're just not going to do that because Robert doesn't believe in that. Robert believes in, like, we got to survive the day because we got guys like Blake Snell, guys like Glass now who are going to. So we got to, if I got to punt a whole week of baseball, I'm going to punt because I got to save my guys to the end, Yeah. And that's what he believes in. This is a guy that was going to punt. He was this close to punting Game 3 of the World Series because he was going to have to bring Miguel Rojas in because he ran out of pitchers. And he was like, fuck it, like, we'll see what happens tomorrow, And thankfully, Freeman hit that home run and we went home with the W because Schneider put his bench in,
Yeah.
Well, that was a great game. You saw all that different managing and all the mistakes that were made. And that was Schneider getting too cocky, right? Because he was like, I'm gonna put my bench in because the game's gonna be over. And they played 2 games that night. They played 18 innings. So Roberts is our little hidden weapon when it comes to all these games and all these little mind games that we see throughout the season. He just knows how to navigate all that.
All right, Mookie Betts. Defensively, he had a pretty damn good season playing shortstop. But he doesn't make, $300 million or whatever he makes because he plays a good shortstop. He makes that money because offensively, he's just the table setter of all table setters and clutch.
Last season.
And last season he struggled. He kind of looked like an old guy last season. Now he had his excuses. He had the illness early on, and I don't know what that illness was, but he got light.
He dropped 20 pounds.
He dropped a lot of weight. And he specifically said, I was reading something about it where he said his bat was just so slow. Now, he doesn't have that crazy bat speed that some of these other players have.
Especially.
So if his bat speed is a little bit slower than normal, it's probably going to hurt him more than a lot of guys. But he said that he was working on improving his bat speed and getting it back to what was average for him. He thought that was the biggest problem. What does Dodger Nation feel about Betts as far as, is this going to be a comeback season for him? Are they kind of worried about how he's aging and because his contract, he's still signed for several years.
We still got him for 6 years, man.
Yeah. What's the gauge on him?
The little, the pulse here in the city is that we're concerned that he's aging out, and last year was the first sign of that. Of course, we're going to see how he does at the beginning of the season here, but that was a big concern. Also, another concern is that he's a guy that's very hard on himself, and so whenever he loses his confidence, he's one of those guys that just spirals to the point where there was a couple times to the local media he had very emotional conversations, pretty much beating like the opposite of Blake's now, just kind of going over like how he's done everything he can and there's nothing else he could do. There was a point where he was deep in his struggles, where he just went on there and said, I just don't know what else to do. I'm in the cage every day. I've tried changing things up, and then he had that whole visit with JD Martinez that turned it around in the middle, towards the end of last season, and he kind of woke up a little bit, right? And to the point where Dodger fans were saying they need to bring JD Martinez as a coach, because this guy, but then he kind of went in another slump. And then he kind of took that in the postseason, and he never really recovered. What he did do at the end was he knew how to work the count. That's one thing that he did towards the end of the season. He ended up really understanding how to work the count, and he started getting a lot of walks because of that. So he never got the power back. He never really got on base a lot the entire season. I think he batted like 240, which is ridiculous for somebody like Mookie. But he did end up working the count a lot better, getting better pitches, and he did walk a lot towards the end. So that really helped us, because then he would get on, and you had Freeman behind him, so or Ohtani as well.
So from the perspective of kind of my hopes for the Giants, and this isn't Mookie Betts related, but it kind of made me think about this, which is there's a lot of hope that Willie Adames, last year.
I'm seeing the Giants roster right here. That's why I keep on looking down. I want to see what I want to talk about. And Willie Adames is somebody I want to talk about.
So Willie Adames, from an average perspective, he didn't hit for high average, and a lot of his home runs were kind of backloaded at the end of the season when the Giants offense kind of woke up.
He got 30 of them last season.
He got to 30, but I think for the Giants to take that step that I'm thinking. And, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's going to be 84 wins or whatever. That's kind of where I'm at, 84 wins, and whether or not that gets him into the wild card, we'll see. But it's going to be somebody like him who goes, okay, I've been in, the NL West for this 1 year. I see what the Dodgers are doing, because he brings that joy that we were talking about in the WBC, and that the Giants hope that Vitello also brings. You still want them to be professional, but Adames brings that joy to the game. And I think the Giants offense, their leadership needs a little bit of that, because sometimes I think they take on Buster Posey's personality too much, which is a little.
They need to throw Will Clark in that bench.
Oh, no, we don't need to go that far. But because, the reason why back in the 80s, the reason why you could have a Will Clark is because then you had a Kevin Mitchell who was like nothing but business, right? Like Kevin Mitchell would fight you on the field, to get that respect. Same with guys like Hackman, Jeffrey Leonard. Like those guys were like, you say the wrong thing and they're going to like start swinging at you. So, you had Will could kind of hide behind them a little bit. They're like his bodyguards. But for Adames, and another person who's I want to see a little bit of that joy, is like Jung-Hoo Lee. Now, I don't think Jung-Hoo Lee is going to be the level of player that we probably had hoped when they brought him over. After seeing, a season, his first season was so stunted because he got hurt. But last year, I think what we thought he's not quite there. He's probably only like 75% of how they were trying to sell him to the Giants, at least the Giants PR. But the one thing that he can do is he can make some amazing plays, and he can do stuff on the field where you just get behind him and think, oh man, this guy's so much fun to watch. And that is kind of a little bit different than I've really seen from Giants teams. Now, when they won the World Series in 2010, there was a book that kind of wrote about how like they were just a bunch of these guys who were just thrown together, and they were like this interesting, weird mix, goofy mix of guys. How can you be like you're not wearing suits on the road when you have Brian Wilson and his chest hair closing games
Right.
for you, right? But then by the time 12 and 14, those titles, they were a little bit more buttoned up. Like you saw Madison Bumgarner, who wants to yell at everyone if they watch their home run for more than 2 seconds.
Right.
And so that's kind of what the kind of the how the team just their personality was.
They're
a
still
little
like
bit more
that
like
to this
that.
day, though.
But and that's my worry, because like Buster Posey, that's his personality, right? Like Buster Posey has like a fun wit to him, but he's not a very showy guy. And I want the team to have a little bit more personality, because I think they have the personalities for that. But if you don't allow those personalities to shine, maybe you're holding them back a little bit. And that's why I hope Adames comes out on fire this year, because if he's kind of the engine, he's the engine. If he gets it going and you see him having a great time and being really great leader, I think that's what's going to pick this team up. So the kind of your shortstop is very important for the pulse of your team. And I think Adames similarly is important for the pulse of the Giants.
Yeah, especially because you guys are under the shadow of like the Dodgers, who are a very bombastic team. I mean, we got Oscar, who goes out there and pretty much does backflips, whenever things are going. I mean, we got players that are very emotional, and they show it on the field. But not all of them, though. Freddie Freeman's very reserved. Mookie's very reserved. Ohtani's very reserved. So not all of them. But yeah, it's nice to see, and it definitely helps with the PR and just the vibe of the team. That's very contagious, especially when you're winning. You want that kind of atmosphere. What are you thinking about your bullpen this year?
Man,
I'm seeing it here.
This bullpen is like a bunch of no names.
I'm a little concerned about it for you, but I'm happy for us.
Oh my gosh! So Ryan Walker is closing for them, and he was their closer 2 years ago, and he did a pretty decent job. But last year, he was the kind of guy who was like, I don't deserve to be in this role because I can't shut the door. Like he was that kind of guy.
He could have been worse than our closer. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, yeah, but you guys fixed that problem. You guys waved your magic wand and fixed that one. But there are arms that are interesting, but nobody who's like, oh, that's like, so Randy Rodriguez, who was the guy who was closing for them, made the All-Star team last year. He also went down with Tommy John. So if he was healthy, he would have been the Giants closer this year. Young guy, but has really good stuff. But because he's out, they turned back to Ryan Walker. And I thought they were going to bring somebody in. Like there were closers out there who either could have closed or maybe been the setup guy for Walker if it turned out that way. They didn't bring anybody in. They have all of these like random no-name guys. They were bringing in left-handers, up until just the other day. They brought a new one in, and the other guy who was there, Lucchesi, was like, okay, he's obviously coming in to replace me. So can you guys just release me so I can find a new team? Like, I understand what's going on. But yeah, the bullpen is going to be that's going to be Vitello's biggest puzzle, is how to figure out that bullpen. Because like I said, you don't got to worry about it when Logan Webb starts. And to an extent, you don't have to worry about it when Robbie Ray either. Because Robbie Ray's going to try and push for 6. He might throw 130 pitches to get there, but he's going to push for it. It's those other guys, 3, 4, and 5. You may need to use a lot of your bullpen to get through 3, 4, and 5, and that's the thing.
Always hard, man.
But it's also undecided.
Because then you rely on your offense a lot more. Like you lean on your offense when you don't have a consistent bullpen. You're not gonna win a lot of those like 2-1 games or 3-2 games. You're gonna have to have your offense give you at least 6, 7, 8 runs in order for you have to make room for those mistakes that the bullpen's probably going to make because they're inexperienced. or they're not top level relievers. So it's gonna be very difficult, And then to top it off, there's three starting pitchers that you don't have confidence in. So now on those games, where you're getting maybe 5, and you rely on the bullpen. I mean, most of the games are going to be against teams like San Diego and Los Angeles, who are very offensive heavy teams. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, although not as much as nowadays, because nowadays the schedule's all wonky.
Yeah, I think there's hope in a guy who pitched for Venezuela. He even pitched in that final game, Jose Buto. He pitched pretty good, but he's not like an 8th or 9th inning guy. He's probably like a 7th inning guy. They also have this guy who they brought back who was originally with them a few years ago, Gregory Santos. He's like a hard sinker guy. And the guy who was like the liveliest arm, Piguero, he like hurt his hamstring or something. So he's going to be out for a couple months. He's the guy who could like light it up like 100 miles an hour, but he's going to be out for a little bit. So that they have, this was interesting because they have 2 guys who they signed, but both guys aren't going to be ready until the midpoint of the season. So, probably maybe a little bit before the All-Star break, they're going to bring in a righty and a lefty who should be ready to go by then. And I like the idea of having those guys ready and waiting to help you at that point. But what if you're 10 games under 500 by then? Like, how helpful will they be? The Giants will have to be floating above water in order for those guys to really mean something for the season.
Are you talking about Miller and who else?
So it's Hentges and Foley are the 2 guys who they're waiting on.
Yeah, there's a few guys that are on the IL right now.
They got a few. So we got to talk about Ohtani because you, as a Dodger fan, you guys have to know that like right now is like the greatest time to like be a baseball fan. It was like, I mean, like, I got to see it with Bonds, but I'm thinking more.
Whoa. Let's not compare Bonds to Ohtani now.
I mean, 70 home runs and like that is like magical stuff.
We beat that dead horse, so I'm not going to go there.
To literally watch a game and think that once every 2 games, your guy's going to hit a home run. Like, that's just how it works, right? Like, that's kind of how it works. But I look at Ohtani even a little bit differently. Like, I don't know if he's Bonds. He might be Steph Curry. I bring up the Warriors again, because what Steph Curry did for the Warriors is he made all the fans go, okay, every year that this dude plays on our team, we have a chance. And when you have that thought as a fan of any sports team, like I'm a Niner fan as well, I don't feel that they can go to the Super Bowl every year. There are several years, like last year, I was like, they're not that good. This year, I was like, they're good enough, but they're not a Super Bowl team. When Steph Curry, even in the years that the Warriors aren't good, the Warriors fans go, okay, if Steph is healthy and there are good players around him, you always have a chance. And that is kind of what you're going to have with Ohtani for as long as he's Ohtani, is you're just going to be able to go, you're going to have so much faith in the guy. If he's on our team still, we have a chance no matter what. And that is like a fantastic place to be as a sports fan, is knowing you to trust your superstar, best player in the league, and every time he steps on the field, you have a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and there is something special about him, man. He's a special athlete, and I think, obviously the last year the whole joke was like, yeah, Barry Bonds will give you when he had that 3 home run game with 10 strikeouts against the Brewers in the playoffs, and it was like, yeah, Bonds will give you those 3 home runs, but he ain't gonna get you those 10 strikeouts, and that's just the way it is, man. And Bonds hasn't accepted it. He cut a promo on Ohtani last year, saying that because in his time, he's like Ohtani, they would have just walked Ohtani. I got so many walks, and they don't really do that no more. Like, they're just they wouldn't give him those at bats, is what he's trying to say. Mm-hmm. What Bonds was trying to say is that if he got the at bats that Ohtani got, he would have been even better. That's what he's trying to say. But in his time, either they'll beam him or they'll just walk him. Whatever. I mean, he ain't pitching, so who cares? Yeah, he's a special player. It's a little frustrating, and whatever, you can't turn back time. He kind of lost 7 years in like nowhere land over in Anaheim. That's kind of frustrating because he was in his prime there. But we still got a good, I don't know, I would say a good 3-4 years before he starts, in my opinion, kind of going downhill. And then as a DH, you go on forever. Look at Edgar Martinez. I mean, he was in his 40s.
Yep.
So yeah, no, you're right. We have him, and we're gonna have him for a while, and we need him to be productive for a while for a couple of reasons. One, with all these deferments, because Andrew Friedman, I should say, our main guy in baseball operations, he said to the media, what we're doing is not sustainable, even in LA. So we are gonna have to pay the piper eventually. And what he meant by that is, in the years of deferment, which are coming up, in the next, I think, 10 years, we're not gonna be able to go out there and get prime players. We're just not, because we're gonna be paying all these contracts off. So Ohtani has to stay healthy, at least to see us through that. To cover the deferment of like Mookie Betts and Edwin Diaz and all these guys that are not gonna play 10 more years. So we need him to stay healthy for that. And also because he just draws a lot of people. I mean, he's a guy that, Dodger Stadium get-in price is like $100 for like a low-level game, So yeah, we need him to stay healthy for a while, but it's good to have him for sure.
So, what is the expectation? Now, the guy has done the impossible, right? He's going to be in the mix for MVP. I guess the only worry is just if he was to get hurt, but a lot of that is luck. He seems to be very well conditioned. He
dislocated his elbow 2 years ago against the Yankees in the World Series. Remember that? He slid into second base, and he dislocated his shoulder, actually, not his elbow.
And
his
shoulder. And then he didn't steal as many bases last year as the year before as well.
Well, that's because he was pitching. So with him, it's always going to be the question of, what do you want? Do you want that productive hitter that's going to give you 55 seasons, or do you want that pitcher and hitter that you're going to get 50 home runs, but you're not going to get the aggressiveness on the bases, and but you are going to get the innings as a pitcher. So it's whatever and that's what I want, because that's what we're paying him for. We're not paying him to be a DH. I don't care if he has a 60-60 season or a 70-70 season. We're paying him to pitch, but when he pitches, the production as a hitter is going to minimize. That's understandable. He's not superhuman, even though it seems that way. So the expectation, to me, if he gives us a repeat of last season, I'm going to be happy with that.
Now,
this is also his first full season as a pitcher. Last season, he started pitching, I think, around May or June, and it was in increments. It was 1 inning, then 2, then 3, and so on. So this is his first full season where he's going to be an actual pitcher.
All right. The last topic I had for you was somebody who is supposed to kind of help the starting pitching situation, who is Roki Sasaki. And last year, I'm sure he wanted to be in the mix from Jump Street, but he was not. He was not good right out of the gate. And so this year you kind of do it again. And I know he's penciled in there, but I still don't see that vote of confidence yet from Dave Roberts as like, yep, he's the, we're just going to let him go out there and throw, and he's going to be fine. It was a little bit more reserved as far as his comments about, how Sasaki did in the spring training. What do you think is going to happen with Sasaki?
I'm surprised that he made the team, to be honest with you. I thought he had a horrible spring training. I think that his velocity's down again, which to me is like a confidence thing, I think. And he's a Japanese player, and Japanese players, when they hit the skids, they take it very hard just because they have so much pride in the game. To the point where we saw that meme of him crying when he got rocked that first time. And so I'm concerned about him finding his confidence. He did choose the Dodgers because he wanted help with his fastball velocity. That's the reason. That was one of the main reasons why he chose the Dodgers, because they have the coaching staff that he felt was comfortable. They were comfortable enough to train him to be able to raise his velocity on the fastball. or actually it was control issues with the fastball. He could hit 104. It's just the control issues that he has problems with. So I think they're a little stuck with him, to be honest with you. I think they really don't know what to do. Last season they brought him in as the closer. He was our closer, and he got over as our closer. He had some productive games, but he also wasn't perfect either. There was a couple games in the postseason where he did get rocked, and he himself said that that wasn't his role. So he kind of put his foot down. He's like, I don't want to be a bullpen guy. I came here to start. So this season they're gonna have him as the 6th starter. He's penciled in after Emmett Sheehan to be the number 6 starter, and it's gonna be interesting because with major league ball players, man, if they find a weak spot in you, they're gonna get all over him, and they already have. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where he's at. He wasn't a big investment, he was a guy that has a lot of potential. They found him in the WBC, what was it, like 3 years ago? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, they could take their time with him, I'm surprised he made the team, to be honest with you.
I know we like to do this with sort of like players and backgrounds and such, but if you're Sasaki, I would think that, I would kind of lean into Yamamoto and Ohtani for guidance a little bit, right? But it seems like he believes he's like the rock star of the team, and maybe, he expects so much out of himself. But I like the dynamic of like, you have these 2 studs, like you go learn under their wing. Like how does that happen? Is it
the way
that it works?
You see it. Okay, it's kind of weird, and it's funny because you're so far away from the media here, and you still get that vibe, mm-hmm. and you're not even like dialed in. There's this vibe where Ohtani and Yamamoto have tried. You see it on the field. You see it when they're talking to the press. Like they've tried to mentor the kid. There is an age gap. Sasaki's relatively young. He's like 24, 25.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a situation where he got too much too soon. Mm-hmm. But there is this idea. I don't think it's cockiness. I think it's more like he comes off as a really shy guy to where he doesn't really approach them. They approach him, but he doesn't approach them, and that's kind of the vibe that they have. So yeah, it's interesting. But you're right. There should be more of a mentorship there. And Ohtani and Yamamoto, they've told the media, we have, tried to counsel him and guide him along. They have never said that he's refused it, but they have given some like very passive statements of like, he's not as hungry as he should be. That's kind of mm-hmm. like Roki Sasaki's thing, is like, he's not as hungry as he should be,
And I've also seen some stuff where when he thought he had kind of figured some things out, like the Dodgers coaches, were, at least in the public, were like, okay, like we helped him with this thing, but then he himself was like, I did this with my people. Like he kind of separated, like who was the reason for him to.
So what you're saying, it was like he was the Hangman Page to the CM Punk. He was like, I don't need your help to you.
It was kind of interesting the way that he thought that through, and maybe that's just the difference in what is expected out of the media. Like, even if it wasn't the Dodgers coaching staff, you lean into the idea of team, and he's like, no, like that really wasn't how it worked. Like, this is how it worked, which I don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, there is a certain way that the Dodgers engine works, and you want to make sure that people are kind of going along with the ride,
Especially because there is like an ego attached to that engine, right? Because it's work. They got 2 world championships. They've been to the World Series countless times. They got 3 world championships in 2020. There's a lot of different things to where the Dodger engine does work. So when you're refusing it, it's like, who the hell does this guy think he is? So we'll see what happens with him. Like I said, we got Wroblewski as a backup if he can't really handle the pressure. Wroblewski has given us some good innings over the last couple of years. So I'm not too worried about that. So, yeah.
We didn't even talk about Kyle Tucker. That's how much of it is an embarrassment of riches for you guys. But
but he did replace Conforto though, so that's good.
Oh, gosh, that's like a 2, like +2, not just +1.
I guess the latest, and this just happened a couple of days ago. The latest controversy, and I think I know why. Although a lot of fans are confused, is that like Hee-Sung Kim got sent to the minors, and he had a phenomenal spring. Yeah, like he was hit 270. You know, he was making he was working the pitches, and then Alex Freeland ended up getting the gig. You know, and he's 24 years old. You know, and this is my theory. I think that they want Kim to play every day, and he wasn't going to be playing every day in the majors. And I think they want to see what this kid Freeland has to offer. Like they want to finally see, like, because he's I think he was a number 7 draft pick, and he's somebody that they believe in, but he hasn't really kind of played up to his reputation. So I think this is a make or break for him. And it's funny because sometimes players will take it personal, right? They'll be like, "Well, why am I being sent down? I had a better spring than this guy." But in reality, it's actually there to protect you. Like they want Kim to be an everyday second baseman. That's not going to happen in the Dodgers. Whereas with Freeland, it's like.
Well, I was going to say, if there's a plan, then you're like, okay, I understand the plan. Here's what you're trying to do, and it's good that I'm assuming they communicated that to him so that he knows. But sometimes it doesn't make any sense, and you could feel that way, like. What does this mean for me? It actually seems like what you said, which is the guy who made the team, he's got to put up or shut up.
Yeah.
And there's pressure in that.
Right. So that's kind of like the latest news that broke with us. And I thought he was going to make the team because he's awesome. I love seeing him come off the bench. He's really fast. You know, he could steal some bases. But Alex Freeland is a little more flexible. You know, he could play third base, he could play second base, and we got Tommy Edman coming off the IL, so he's going to start off the season injured. So we got Miguel Rojas platooning with Freeland. So that's going to be the strategy. And yeah, we'll see. One thing that I'm interested in, we'll see how Kyle Tucker handles the LA media, because it's not as bad as New York. It's nothing as bad as New York, but it's also not a walk in the park either. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of expectation.
There's expectation for him.
But to me, okay, we need to know what we're getting with him. We're not getting. I think people are expecting, like you were saying, like a Barry Bonds type of player. You know, this guy's like last now. He's never. When was the last time he had a full season? It's been a while. Maybe never. I don't know. But I know with the Cubs, he never had a full season.
Probably with the Astros.
Probably, yeah. And so. He's a guy that's also very injury prone. He's kind of aloof as well. You know, he's one of those guys that has a rep for like not being a team player and whatnot. He's kind of kept to himself over spring training, and so yeah, we'll see what happens with him. That's one of the guys I didn't agree with that. I thought signing Kyle Tucker was just the Dodger front office like exposing themselves, putting their pants down.
I thought, I
didn't like that. I didn't like that at all.
You see it that way because you understand the team and you understand the ecosystem. And for me, because we're the rivals, we saw it as the front office like flexing their muscles. Like, guys want to play for us, and they're going to take a deal that is not as good for their longevity of their career, just because we can pay them a little bit extra. So that's where we can, that's where we win. That's what I saw it as. And that's why I was so mad. I was like, you guys are dicks.
And so to me and to a lot of fans, that was the one where it's like, now we could kind of see how the rest of the fan base sees us, because it's like, bro, like you didn't have to do that. We had an all-star team without that signing. It was like the Edwin Diaz already put us on rocky footing. Especially with the lockout looming in 2027, now you go on and get Kyle Tucker. I mean, now for sure it's gonna happen. So, yeah, that was one of those signings that I was like, and then I also know the guy's stats, and it's like he's not gonna be worth this money. I mean,
he's a good player. He's not, he's not anywhere near Ohtani or even Mookie when Mookie's at his best. Like those, I would
put him at like a Willie Adames caliber player. Like, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm sure the hope is that, as because Freddie's older now.
And Freddie's free agent next season.
As his stats come down a little bit, maybe Tucker's pick up and you kind of get the, you kind of pick each other up in that way. But okay, we're going to get out of here. Give me we don't have to go World Series or bust prediction right now, but what is your expectation for the regular season? Do you expect a regular season like last year where the expectation is really high, but you don't even have the most wins in the National League? Or is it going to be like the year before where you guys are clearly the best team in the National League and it just feels like we already know the outcome getting into the playoffs?
I think we're gonna have a season like last season. We essentially have the same core. I mean, it's the same team coming back. We just got rid of Conforto and brought in Tucker. That's the big change, and we brought in Diaz to be our closer. So I think we're gonna see a lot of the same. Sasaki's a little iffy. He's a question mark. Blake Snell's a question mark. Glasnow's a question mark. And every season they're gonna be question marks because every time they go out, we gotta bring someone up. So I think we're gonna see a season like we saw last season, especially if he is aging out, and last season was a sign of him aging out, then we're gonna have to deal with that as well. Freddie Freeman is a guy that he tries to give you 162 games, doesn't always accomplish it, but he's also banged up, and every season it seems like it takes less and less for him to be banged up. Mm-hmm. There's the Max Muncy factor, who's also someone who gets hurt quite a bit. So one of the things that I wanted to say is that this team is aging out. We could see it already. I mean, this is the same core we've had for a few years now, and we're going to see
which is why you guys go for it, though, at the same time, right? Like, here's our star players. Here's where, as far as the apex, as far as how good our team's going to be, we can be like this for like 2 or 3 years. So then you just pile on the guys and go, okay, for these next 2 or 3 years, we're going to try to win 5 titles and then deal with the outcomes after that.
Right. And at the same time, now this is what a lot of people don't understand, and it frustrates me. At the same time, develop the farm system. Because we have probably the best farm system in baseball. And so we have some young kids. That's why Alex Friedman is going to get the call to start at second base right now that Tommy Edmonds is hurt. So we want that core. We have Dalton Rushing as the backup catcher. We're trying to make a first baseman because Will Smith's going to be there for years. Mm-hmm. So we have some young athletes that are ready as well. And one of the things that Friedman didn't do last year, he didn't trade anybody in the trade deadline because he didn't want to sacrifice his farm system. So that tells you that they have a plan. They have a plan for the team aging out. They have a plan on how to pay all these deferments and have the young kids kind of take over, to get us through that hump. So I'm confident in the team. I'm confident that we're still going to be contenders for many years to come. Whether we're going to go deep into the postseason, that's a different story. But for this season, my expectation is that they're going to have a season like they did last season. But they're also all professionals, the same core. I do see us back in the World Series. Whether we're going to win it or not, I don't know. But we are going to be in the World Series.
Yeah, like I said, I think for the Giants, they'll be slightly better than last year. And it's kind of interesting because, when you look at a baseball team, because there's so many players, and unlike football, where the quarterback is like far and away the most valuable player on the football field. Like if you have an ace quarterback, you can almost have kind of average players everywhere else, and you'll still be slightly competitive. Right. But in baseball, it's like the pieces the way that they fit is very important. And as a Giants fan, I like some of the players. Like I like Matt Chapman. I like Adames. Obviously Devers, it's fun to watch him swing the bat. They picked up Harrison Bader this year to play center field. I think that's going to be a solid pickup. But it's like the perfect team if they had one superstar. Like if you had one superstar, you're building the perfect team around that one superstar. They're just missing that superstar. And that's the problem with the team. If you had somebody coming up or you had somebody who's a free agent, and you're like, that's the guy who's going to make this team, whomever that player is. I feel like the Giants have the supporting pieces of a team that could go all the way if they just had one of the top 10 players in baseball, and they just don't have that right now.
Well, the problem is that nobody wants to go there, man. That's the problem.
Well, you trade for him,
like
right?
they have.
That's how they got Devers.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, you want the player to want to play there, and I know they've interviewed everybody from Otani, to Harper.
You heard Bryce Harper during the World Baseball Classic. He said the reason he didn't choose the Giants is because it was going to be Bruce Bochy's last season, and Bochy was the guy he wanted to play for. So they turned him off by sending Bochy out to the pasture so that he can win another World Series. It's stuff like that.
I thought he retired on his own, and then he came back with the Rangers. He did a Terry Funk.
It was one of those writing on the wall kind of things when the Giants brought in Farhan Zaidi.
Right.
Bochy was like, okay, like our understanding of baseball is so different.
Right.
He's going to want to bring in his own guy, and that became Gabe Kapler. So
right. Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, that changes. None of the top 10 guys are gonna want to go play for San Francisco. So,
well, I tell you. Now here's, I was a little bit pessimistic about Vitello. Now here's the glass half full about Vitello. By being a head coach or a manager in college, he got to see a lot of young players. And by having the best college program, he recruited a lot of the really good young players who are playing baseball today. So if the Giants are good and those guys like him, that could be a recruitment. And maybe that's Buster's overall kind of like long-term plan is Vitello is actually the guy who brings folks in, kind of like how Harper wanted to play for Bochy. That is an interesting thing. And if that happens, I will gladly say, damn, that was like a master plan of all master plans that I didn't see because of my kind of just like my worry about bringing a college guy into the pros.
Right. Well, we'll see how it plays out.
Well, we get game 1 Wednesday night on Netflix. Are you interested in that broadcast?
I'm going to watch it. Do we know who's going to do the play-by-play? Were they hired for that?
I think it's Vasgersian, I think.
Okay. All right.
I think it's Matt Vasgersian. I know Hunter Pence, and Brad and I were talking about this the other day. Brad's not a big fan of Hunter Pence doing base. I'm not either because he's a little bit of a meathead himself.
Right.
But they're trying to bring both people from New York and San Francisco to kind of have like the evenness of the thing. But Albert Pujols is going to be involved. CC Sabathia is going to be involved. I think those guys might be like on like the pregame show or whatever.
Yeah, because CC's already with TBS, I think.
So Bonds will be involved as well.
Oh,
so
boy.
It'll be L. Duncan, Barry Bonds, Albert Pujols, and Anthony Rizzo at the analyst desk. Matt Vasgersian, CC Sabathia, and Hunter Pence in the broadcast booth. And they're bringing in like these semi-celebrities, like, and they're kind of tangentially related to Netflix. So, Jameis Winston, the football player Jameis Winston, who plays for New York, he's a New York Giants quarterback. He's going to be involved in some way. Bert Kreischer, that guy who always takes his shirt off on Raw.
Man, that guy's everywhere. He's like
he's everywhere. He's like Netflix's go-to. He's going to be there, and I don't know if you heard this one. The Usos are going to be there.
I did hear it today. Actually, they announced it on Raw.
Yeah, Tony Vitello. If he's smart, he gets a yeet off at some point.
Yeah. Make sure Daniel Bryan did go on the. It did show him, right?
Yeah, he did. He's the one who got that the yes chance over.
The yes chance. Yeah.
All right, this was awesome. We do this kind of whenever we feel the need, and you were a great pinch hit for Brad because Brad was out and I was like, oh, what are we gonna do at the beginning of the season? But I was like, you know what? I have the perfect person, so I'm thankful that you were available. And as the season goes on, we'll kind of get back, and we didn't really focus as much on the possible labor situations that are probably going to happen. That's going to be a long season-long story.
This is a celebratory conversation.
Yeah, this is like the excitement of opening day. We can talk about that stuff at another time.
We'll talk about that during the season, and I'm for sure at the end of the season, because that's when it's going to really become a thing, and we'll see what happens.
All right, that is it from here. So thanks to Draven for hanging out and getting this done. For Draven, I'm Double GC. When we see you, peace out.